storm issues. What a great day for cleanup day success. The citizens made a difference. Chipping bids.
Can I go on about the cleanup day success, just so everybody's aware that's here? We had to, in order for our FEMA, as part of this, we had to do a lot of documentation, and I had a lot of great help with that. We were able to register 97 volunteers that day. Of those 97, 85 of those people were actively working throughout the community. Some of those were just people who donated food, and we went ahead and registered them. We logged 486 volunteer hours. I just thought that was so huge, and that, depending on what value I can talk FEMA out of, I just used a rough $12 an hour, is $5,800. That goes strictly in the city's 15% of this whole thing. In addition to that, the equipment hours totaled 335 hours. Now that's all the equipment that was running, and several different price levels for all the equipment, and using FEMA's reimbursement levels, that has an approximate value of $7,100. So with the expenses to date and where I think this is going to happen, it looks to me like we will be able to shift just about all of our cash outlay to FEMA and to the state, and the city's 15% will be accomplished with this volunteer day and volunteer donated resources. So Auburn, if you were a part of our day, pat yourself on the back, because we had a wonderful day. If you came out and helped us on that day, you did a great big thing for your city. It was awesome. On that same note, I have a thank you letter that I have drafted that I think we want to send to each and every person that helped us on that day. And I put a line on this piece of paper for each one of you to sign as council. If you would sign this, then I'll make copies of it and send it from here. So I will pass that around for each of you to sign. And again, to council and to Jerry, thank you for all your hard work, for all your support. It worked great. I just was overwhelmed with how people showed up that day to help us.
It was an awesome day, and thank you to you for help to get it organized.
And Iowa Telecom.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was in another note. And because we had some cash outlay for volunteer food and some of the things that we purchased, Iowa Telecom called me a few days ahead of time and said, we'd really like to help out in some way. And I said, well, here's what I need. And he said, well, and at that point I needed equipment. And he said, I really can't supply equipment, but how about if I send you a $250 check? I said, perfect. So that was enough money to pay for all of the food that we had to earn and supplies that we had to purchase to feed our people that day. So this was, I'm telling you guys, this was a great show of how wonderful this community is. It was just the wonderfulness of this community on parade.
Have we heard anything back from Threadnet?
I gave the number of hours for the Threadnet workers to Judy, but
Nothing.
that's out of my hands, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
If I move on to the chipping bids, I have been working very closely with FEMA. I had 3 FEMA guys in here again last Thursday afternoon. I have another meeting with the FEMA to start our project worksheet on the electrical part of it next Monday. This will be divided into the electrical part of it and the debris cleanup part of it. So I think I can go ahead and submit for approval. I can get close to getting that submitted for the electrical part of it right away. And I'm going to go ahead and try to complete that one. The debris removal cleanup is on hold until we can get 3 quotes on the chipping and removal down there. I did contact the city of Carroll and get their bid spec sheets and have them in your packet tonight. We need to get those out. I think, I'll give you a minute if you want to look through those. There's nothing really for you to approve, but there might be a couple things you want to look at while we're here as far as that bid spec. Basically, we need chipping and hauling. They have to dispose of it. They do have to dispose of it. We do need to know where they dispose of it because it has to go to an EPA-approved facility. I guess a couple of my questions, were, and I don't see this as being, while it's going to be an expense, I don't think it's $1 million expense. So I think it's up to council if you wanna jump the hoops of the bid security and jump the hoops of the performance bond. That only adds to our cost if you're gonna go, if we're gonna do that. So I do kinda want council's thoughts on bid security and performance bond. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? Okay.
What's the city's liability if we don't have those?
Basically what would happen if we don't get a bid security, the same thing's gonna happen, except for it would be our expense to go back out for these quotes. This is not a formal bid process, it's because it's not gonna be over $100,000. But FEMA requires that you get 3 quotes, or at least attempt to get 3 quotes. Now, if we can document that we sent out, I have quite a long list of people that I supplied to you that we could send bid packages to. If we were to send all 40 of those, or whatever those are, and only get 2 back, then I can document that there were not 3 quotes available. But our only responsibility is to get 3 quotes and then to choose the lowest, most responsible one. Should we, if you have to have a bid security, all that means is that if they get the lowest bid but they refuse to sign the contract, you get to keep that security. Doesn't mean you get there faster, because you gotta go back out and do it all over again, or go to the next guy. The performance bond is maybe a little more important in this situation, because then you would have a bond, should the guy not perform the job the way he should have, then you have a security against that lack of any expense we would incur to take care of what he didn't do. That's probably the more important of the two in this case. I don't anticipate this to be, over $10,000, so, I don't think it's, but it could add, depending on, I don't know what their bonds cost, but it will add some cost to it to make them get bonds. Basically what the request for proposal says is where the pile is located, the fact that we want chipping and disposal, that they have to help us with documentation, tells them where they can work and what hours they can work. There is a place where we have to weigh them, and I have to check on that for sure before this goes out. But I'd kinda like to get this out by the end of the week. I think I put in the proposal that the bids needed to be back here by the 5th of May, so you guys can consider them on the 10th. And we do have a 6-month window from last week to get this done. So it's not a small window, but it's not a big deal either.
Can anybody request a bid on these if they
Yes.
knew about it?
Yes,
So,
yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Feed Center gonna cooperate for the scale?
I gotta call him. That's the one I don't know yet. He usually does, he has every other time. The other thing I haven't tracked down is FEMA has been here and they have GPSed the trees, they've measured and looked and photographed the pile, but they haven't communicated back to me what they expect our volume to be. So I think that needs to go in these bid specs at some point before they go out. But I have to call the debris guy, and I really just got to look at this afternoon. I just got it Friday, so, and the other thing it does make them do is, carry insurance at $1 million level. Workman's comp if they're paying employees, and contractors if they, or insurance if they, hire subcontractors.